Hello and welcome back to City Planner Plays, where today we're playing Tiny Glade. In my original video covering this game, I created a cozy English Tudor inspired mansion. And while I absolutely love the way that the build came out, it wasn't the build that I originally intended to create for the video. Originally, I planned on recreating Princess Peach's castle, but I didn't have the skill to do it at the time. But like many of you, I've been playing the game a ton, and now I feel like I have what it takes to accomplish the build. So that's what we're going to take on today. Now, when I build something in Tiny Glade, I like to have a few reference shots of what I plan on making. But one thing I hadn't considered is just how many versions of the castle there are. And depending on the game or movie you're referencing, you're going to come up with a completely different design. So, being a millennial, I originally considered referencing Mario 64, but the castle is much more basic than I recalled, making it a suboptimal choice. After that, I remember that Princess Peach's castle is featured a few times in the Super Mario Bros. Movie that came out last year. Figuring that that's probably the most detailed version of the castle, I pulled up the movie, only to realize that while it's detailed, it's far away in the movie and I'm only able to see the front, so I'd be freestyling for the other sides. That's when I realized I had the perfect version of Princess Peach's castle, the one from Mario Odyssey. If you beat the game, you get to visit the castle, and with the outstanding photo mode in the game, we can get the perfect reference shots all the way around the castle. It's also incredibly detailed, and it looks great. So this is the version of the castle that we're going to try to recreate today. We are going to be building in the flowery glade, and the very first thing I want to do here is remove everything on the map, and that's because I just think it'll be a lot easier to see what we're doing. So I'll begin with the structure, and then remove all the trees as well. Next, I want to build the moat. And even though Princess Peach's castle is on a hill, I think adding the moat while this is flat makes the most sense. We're going to be building the castle up from the moat, and then we'll build the hill around the moat once the castle's complete. And for this, I'm going to try to get this as close to the final size as it can be, and I'll try to place this right in the center. And now we're ready to start building the base. So we'll build with our rectangular pieces first, remove the roofs, and make these as large as possible. Now, I think that this is supposed to be about a story and a half tall, so I'll raise all the pieces to right about here. And then let's give this a brick texture. Now let's add the main story of the castle. And for this one, I want to find a snap to right in the center. And I think it dropped down. So I lower this down. There it is. And I actually want to raise this thing up. And this is what we're going to do with all of these because I want it to sit above this level. And this should only be about a story tall. So I'm going to do this all the way across. Now I want to build the front. And for this, I'm just going to try to find the center right here. And then we'll pull this off to the side. We actually need the roof for this, as well as some of our snapping points for some of our embellishments on the side. So I will pull the roof up right away. And there we go. Now I want to add some of our side pieces that are rounded. Now I got one piece in place. I'm going to try to get this one perfect, and then I'm going to use this to make an exact replica for the other side. I decided to get the back as well, and I think I've got to do this 2 more times. Once for a larger top piece, and then another one for a bottom that has the brick texture. Now, as I look at this, I can't help but think that the castle needs to be just a little bit wider. So I think we're going to add another base piece here and spread this out just a little bit further. And there we go. I think that's a little more appropriate. We could fit 2 windows here. That's what I was really worried about. Next, I want to return to the front and kind of nail some of this stuff up here. First things first, we've got a smaller circular section right here. And then I want to do the exact same thing around here. This is the area where we'll have our stained glass. And I'm going to actually put the stained glass right here so I can figure out how big this section needs to be. That's just adding 3 of those side by side. And I can see that this is way wider than it needs to be, which is a good thing because I have 2 more of these that I need to place on the side here. And now I've got to put the balcony on here. And for that, we'll once again use one of these pieces. Now, I want to add all of the rooftops to these spires, but before we do that, we've got 2 more to add right here and 2 more in the back. And now for each of the towers, I want to add a larger piece right on top. And this will be white, and it'll also be fairly short. And now let's add the roof pieces on here. Now we have to do the exact same thing with the smaller towers. And now let's add our main roof segments. And there we go. I think that this is about as good as I can get the roof. It's really complicated because it's got two different segments to get that to look nice. I had to go a bit higher than I wanted on this, but I think it's okay. So now I'm ready to add the main tower. Now I just want to make sure that it's perfectly centered because the last thing I want is to look at this and have it be off. And it looks like something is just a little bit off. There we go. I think it was a variety of things that were just a little bit off. It was making it look really bad, but now it is pretty darn good. So I'm going to place this right back there behind this segment of roof. And now we've got at least 4 segments that we have to add here. So we'll go one that's a little bit bigger. And then I wonder if I can get away with just actually pulling this up and reusing this. That would be the easiest way of doing this. Yeah, if I add the roof piece like that, I should be able to do that. No problem. And then it's actually just one more piece on top of here. There we go. I think that that is pretty darn good. Really pumped about that. I think that that turned out really well. Now we've got to add our front door. And this will remain a window until I add our bridge. That is looking really, really good. I think it's time to start detailing this thing because the main body of the castle is in place and I think it looks outstanding. I want to start with the part I'm going to struggle with the most, which is building the hill around the castle. But the first thing we've got to do is eliminate some of this moat. I think it is a little unnatural looking around the outside, so we'll just round it up a little bit. And now I want to raise the land all the way around the castle. So I'm going to come at the castle with this view. The idea is I'd love this all to be one sweeping movement so I could raise and lower it all at once as well as smooth it all at once. There we go. Now, while we're talking about the moat, one of the iconic features of the Mario Odyssey castle is that there are arches right down here, and I can't do an arch, but I have one idea. While I have the road tool selected, I want to make as large of an opening underneath here as I can, which will kind of give me that arch appearance. Now let's add a whole bunch of windows, and by a whole bunch, I mean a rational number. I know that that was something in my previous build I went a little bit crazy on, but I'm following a pattern now, so hopefully that means I don't go too crazy. And now let's add some flags. And then finally, a little bit of landscaping. And then finally, before I could be satisfied with this, I had to make some small off-camera adjustments to try to make things look as good as they could. And that started here with the tower, which I thought was just a little bit too tall. I decided to shrink it down a little bit, which I think makes it a little bit more appropriately scaled for Peach's castle. The other thing that I did is I made sure that all of these windows here were lining up as they should, made sure that they were all the same size. And then I made some significant roof adjustments. So this is probably the most substantial change that I made. I tried to figure out a way to have the roof feel like it's one cohesive roof. So that was adding a third roof piece in and then adjusting all of the rest of the roof pieces to line up with that. And the net result is that it feels like one cohesive roof. Looks a ton better in my opinion. And then I made a number of small changes. You can see I'm moving windows, moving things up and down. And then I took a look at all the towers and realized these are supposed to be pointier. So I went ahead, held onto the tower, pulled it inward, and then you're able to get pointier towers, which looks a lot more similar to what you'd see in Mario Odyssey. And I just think that in general, this captures the feeling of Peach's castle now. There's one thing that I wish I would have done differently. That is, I wish that the wings were just a little bit wider. There was a little bit more space in between here. I think it would feel a little bit better, but it's a relatively minor thing. But in general, I am just in love with how this thing looks. It turned out really, really well in my opinion. But I'm curious to know, is there anything that you would have done differently? Is there anything that you think I could have changed to make this even better? Have you taken on a build like this yourself? Have you rebuilt Peach's castle? And if you did, what did you do differently? Or are you going to try it out yourself now that you've seen me build it? I want to know. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the build and if you've done this yourself. Or if you've made another castle from another game or book. I'd be interested in knowing what you've done. And of course, we gotta wrap things up by walking up to the castle at night. This is a view you don't really get in Mario, and honestly, I really, really dig it. I think it looks spectacular. It reminds me a lot of Peach's castle, and I think it looks really, really good. It's really a testament to the way that this game works. You're able to just create really outstanding, really beautiful things really quickly. This is about an hour and a half in real time for me, and I had a blast, and I love the way it looks. But with that, I think that we're going to leave it here, and I really hope that you've enjoyed this one. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I really want to thank you so much for your time today. There's a million things that you could have been doing. You decided to hang out with me and play some Tiny Glade, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care. Bye-bye.